Well, hello again, and thank you very much for watching. This particular video is a compendium of a process that's taken a number of months. As I mentioned in my previous end of 2018 video, the generator on the RV, after a lot of slaving and so on, has been condemned, and I will not put any more time into it. In November, we purchased a 3,000 watt Furman inverter generator, and at the same time I bought a pan that will fit on the back of the RV through the hitch, or on the back of the Jeep, which also has a bicycle mount as well. And the idea was to mount the new generator on this pan and just leave the old one where it was and just run the wires as necessary and so on. So we're along in this project a little bit, and I'm fairly encouraged. So phase one, of course, was just buying the gear. And we did pretty well on all of that. Got the generator and the mounting at for 2/3 the standard price. So I was pretty pleased with that. So the whole project will cost less than the generator was supposed to cost originally. So I'm pretty satisfied there, I guess. Phase one was to run an extension wire under the RV, 30 amp wire, to an area at the back of the RV where it could connect to the generator. And I was wondering what to do with the cord and everything else, but what's really worked out well is the ladder is right there. And so I simply can Velcro wrap the cord along the side of the ladder, cover the top of it with a bag to keep it from getting too wet when it's stored. And then when I plan to use it, I can simply just detach it as appropriate, plug it into the generator, and off we go. Furthermore, a second problem that I hadn't been able to think of a solution immediately was that when I tow the Jeep, the generator pan has to be on the back of the Jeep. So that puts the generator now 15, 16 feet further aft. And the question was, how do you get the cord from where I have it at the ladder back to the end of the Jeep? And without it lying on the paint and marring the surface. Well, once again, the ladder really comes into effect here, because the ladder holds the cord nice and high, and that'll get the cord from the ladder over to the top of the roof rack of the Jeep, basically, without it running on the hood. So I'm really kind of happy that we figured that one out. And so those are the concept ones. I had the pan on the back of the generator back at Christmas time, and I fired it up and strapped it on. It all seemed to work. The noise level in the RV is very low. I hardly notice it. The generator out on its own, when you have it in and around with the buildings, it sounds kind of loud. But when you put it out in the open area and you get back, your standard 21 feet or whatever it is, it's not bad at all. And I checked it with my phone sound meter, however reliable those things are, and I was pretty satisfied that we've got a unit here that's going to work for us. And in most cases, we'll either be far enough away from whomever, or we'll be running it primarily when we're driving anyway, so it doesn't really make any difference. The next step, so acquiring, and then we ran the wires. The next step, of course, is to recognize that we want to run the generator when we're driving, say in the summer for air conditioning purposes, in the winter for heating purposes, so we don't run our furnace all the time and so on. And the generator is not going to stand living in a rainstorm. That's just not going to work, or road wash or whatever, and it has to be protected from that. And so I thought of different ways to do this, and in the end the simple answer was a wooden box of some kind that would allow ventilation and so on, but was going to keep the majority of the elements off. And so I constructed a box a few days ago using 5/8 plywood that I think is going to work pretty well. You put the pan on, mount the generator, strap it down, put this over top of the generator. There's lots of slots for air to circulate around. I think there's no floor in it. So I think that should work pretty well. The ventilation side will be fairly close to the generator. The exhaust, the exhaust side will be close to the generator, so the exhaust will just blow right outside. The intake side will have a little bit of a gap so that if it is raining and so on, the water's not sucked immediately right in. There's a little bit of a resistance, and we may decide ultimately to put a hood on that. We're not sure yet on that one, but there'll be adequate ventilation holes drilled, and so then this will be then strapped on, and then we have to test it. So today, the first day, we've had very cold weather here in January, and has been difficult to work outside. So today the plan is to drill the ventilation holes and do a test mounting of the whole system on the Jeep with the same hitch arrangement, which is not difficult to do, and get the generator on and attached in the way I have in mind, and then put the cover over it and see if the attach mechanisms that I have in mind for that are working adequately. Start the generator and see what we have. And so the immediate work I have to do before I can get to that phase is I have to still drill the exhaust hole and the ventilation holes, and I still have to cut the access panel door on the back so that you can open up the door while you want to use it, so you can start the generator and adjust the controls and whatever. The top of the wooden case has a lid which folds up so that you can add gas to it and so on. So all this will be on the subsequent video. I just thought this was just an overview. So I'm very excited about this. I'm hoping that everything will work as advertised, and now we have a system that really does do this. And the nice part about all of this is the generator is still portable. We have a pretty powerful generator there at 3,300 watt surge, and it will certainly run an air conditioner and a few other things as well in the RV as we go down the hill. So when in the wintertime, the thinking is just to run 2 electric heaters just in the environment, warming up the coach, because when you drive, you have heat from the dash, but that doesn't go very far, and if you go back in the RV to go to the bathroom or something, it can be pretty cold back there. So this way, we're hoping to make it more habitable that way. We might use the furnace initially just to bring the thing up to temperature, because the furnace is a little more efficient doing that. But we want to maintain it, if we can, with the electric heaters. So that's sort of the plan there. And we have 2 different circuits running it, and of course the generator would be pushing those things. So that's sort of the plan there. And of course in the summertime, the primary interest is to run the roof air. And often I've found that if you can run roof air, sometimes you don't even need dash air, depending on how hot and everything else the particular day happens to be. So it's pretty nice. Now we have to remember with this system, there's no control of the generator from in the cab. There is a version of this generator that has a fob, but that wasn't available at the highly discounted price, and in all honesty, it's probably more of a gimmick than it's really necessary for the functionality of it. And the generator runs or doesn't run doesn't really make a lot of difference. If you don't need the air conditioning or whatever, you just turn it off. But if we ultimately don't want the generator, we can always pull over somehow and shut it down. Now the generator's gas tank is almost 2 gallons, US gallons, and supposed to run for about 12 hours at a quarter load. A quarter load in this case being in the neighborhood of 700 watts, I guess. So, an air conditioner under normal circumstances would be something like half a load. So either way, we feel pretty comfortable that for most drives, the generator would make it through the entire run without refueling, or we'd have gas on board if we had to, based on a timing situation. Say, okay, when we get here, we'll just stop it and we'll refuel it just because. So that's sort of the arithmetic there, and just see how stable this whole process is. But it's on the surface, it's looking very good. So thank you for watching the preamble here, and then I'm going to attach some videos as I continue to build this structure. So here's the generator sitting right here, and like I said, ultimately today we'll mount it to the back of the Jeep and make sure we know what we've got before we go to the RV. Here's the cover I built the other day, and so we're going to sit this on top of the generator and just marry it up for fit and so forth before we drill the penetrations. So that's our next step here. Okay, alright, so here is the carrier, which I call the Modular Equipment Stowage Assembly, or MESA, and then here's the generator in its box. As you can see, there's ample room. The exhaust is in about here somewhere, and so we're going to keep that fairly close so that put a 3-inch hole there, the exhaust will go right outside. We need a door on this wall here to access the controls and to be able to start the generator. And over here we're going to drill some holes for ventilation purposes. We'll also mount 2 handles on the side to lift the thing carefully. You notice the eyes on the side, these are going to be for straps to hold it on. This whole assembly goes on here. And so what will happen is the generator will sit right in the middle and be strapped down, and then the MESA will go, or sorry, on the MESA, and then the cover will go over top of that. We're going to cut a couple of slots right in about here because the cover will overhang the front of this by design. Didn't want things too tight. We want to make sure we get lots of air around us so the generator doesn't get too warm. So on the surface, looks like we're off to a good start here. So now we got to do some drilling and some door making and so on, and we'll get back to you. So we made a little money since I last made the next video. You can see the ventilation holes now on this side. I was going to do a 3rd row, but I didn't want to weaken the plywood too much, so we'll see how that goes. We have the access door on here, which allows me to can work the controls and pull the starter. And then over here we have the exhaust port here, and the case is right up against it, so that should work, I think. And then here's the top situation. You can see the space around there, and then this is being fairly close. We'll see if it gets too hot. We'll figure it out as we go. And of course the lid on the top is to allow us to put gas in. I've also made the notch here for the piece to slot in there. So what's left now is the latch for this. I wanted to get a hook latch, but I want one with a little catch on it so that it won't pop open into vibration. And then we're going to secure the lid and the box with straps, and I'm also trying to find straps that have some kind of captive on them so that they can't come undone when we're going down the road. But anyhow, it looks like we're getting a little closer to being done here, so I'm kind of pleased how it's come out so far. So I'll get back when we've gone a little further.
It works and it doesn't
So this is the first time that I've had the new APU commissioned on the RV. It's supplying power to the RV. Unfortunately, the 30 amp cable is not quite long enough. I'm going to have to change this slightly under nicer weather to reach the plug because the MESA is far enough away. But it's really pretty much working as advertised, and I would say it didn't take more than 10 minutes to establish it on the RV. So here's the back view here, and it's pretty much at full power. It's pushing a 1500 watt heater off a 20 amp plug because I couldn't plug in the 30 amp plug. But So it's running a heater, so we'll see what happens. But lots of fun. Very pleased so far how this is going. So we'll see if we can keep it going as we drive a little bit. The RV started fine, so I'm very pleased. It's been sitting for a month in very cold weather. I was hoping the batteries would survive, but so far we're doing okay. So that's the new project, and I would say there's some parts I didn't use. Probably about $100 including tax for the whole thing. Not, you know, obviously not counting the generator, but the wooden case. So I'm pretty happy with it so far. Well, hello everyone. So I'm in the sea breeze here now, and we're under generator power for the first time with the new APU. I'm really initially, of course, just getting started with this. Pleased with how it's working. I'm still trying. There we go. So isn't that wonderful? I've got a nice camera picture of the Mesa on the backup camera, so we'll be able to watch that as we go down the road, and if anything's getting loose or something's not right, we'll be able to manage that. So that looks really promising. So in all fairness, this has come together pretty well, and so we're going to see how it goes now. We're going to go for, 30 or 40 kilometers drive, just to exercise the RV since it has been driven in almost a month, and see what comes of it. And we'll come back and assess things, see that the generator's still running and it's still pushing. Right now it's pushing a 1500 watt heater. And we have the 20 amp plugs connected right now, not the 30, mainly because the cable's about 2 inches too short, so I just have to jiggle how that's routed, but we'll do that another day. So on the surface, at least today, we have about -5°C, so for the Americans out there, maybe 25 degrees, where prior to today it's been closer to -10 Fahrenheit or colder, and a lot of wind, and that's not the time, at least for me, to be working outside. So we just kind of had to sit on things. I built the cover actually in the house after getting the pieces cut at the store, and since I screwed it together and so on, it was not too bad. So on the surface, I'm kind of pleased. Obviously it's raw wood right now. We're going to paint it and everything, but that doesn't have to happen until warmer time, and again, we're not being RVing all that much at this time of year anyway. So yeah, I guess that's going to be it just for now, and I'll give you a final comment on this as this project sort of comes to an end finally. Starting back in November when I purchased the generator and the Mesa, then of course things sat for a while. I had some health problems, and then the cold weather, and it was just recently that I had a chance to finish up on it. Not that the RV was going anywhere anyway. Well, thank you again for watching. Hopefully you find my experiences interesting, and I'm happy to help anyone who's interested in this wonderful hobby. We'll talk to you later. There's the monitor, and you can see the view that the driver gets as you drive along, which is really nice to have. So really appreciate that. So I'm back, and from the loop, which took 45 minutes or so. The generator ran the whole time, ran the heater that's beside me here. It's about 1500 watts or so. Help keep the driver area nice and warm. It's currently, it says 1°C, but it's colder than that outside, I'll bet. And it's a bit windy. Nevertheless, so the first pass with this generator system has worked perfectly, other than connecting to the 30 amp plug, which is a minor issue, I think. It's worked just great. I couldn't be more pleased with the actual turn of it. So one step here, and this of course is got to have enough energy to theoretically run the roof air and do the things that we wanted to do in the summertime. And like I said, putting this on the RV was about 10 minutes, maybe less, depending on everything. The other test, of course, we'll have to do is to put the Jeep behind the RV and mount this behind that, and all the rest, and
see what how that plays out. But again, when we know we have power, at least we know that part's working, and we have the the bicycle beyond that, and so on. So there's still some things to think about here. We have to make a small modification in the cover for that, but it's been a pretty successful turn here. So thanks again for your interest. I think I'll end this video with this presentation, but like I said, we've got a pretty functional system that allows us to use it with the Jeep behind or just with the RV, and we can still hang the bicycle on. We're not giving up that capability. So I think that we're off to a good start. Hopefully it will stay like that. Thanks again for watching, and I'm Henry, and like I said, if you enjoy the videos I do, please subscribe, give me a like, and hopefully we'll be able to make some more. Thanks again.